What's going on, everybody? It's UTXJG the Don, along with Ace of all trades, because you know we beat our games, right?
No.
Welcome to the
so.
you know, I always gotta throw the shot, but welcome to the official Sekiro Shadows Die Twice review. I know some of you have all been waiting on this, and you all have been watching our struggles on Twitch. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitch on our respective channels. UTXJG the Don, Ace of all trades 01. But we have both beat the game in GI. We've had some other members that have attempted it. Probably won't play it again, but at least they attempted it. And we have one person
shots.
We have one person, Ethos, who's at the end, and we don't know if he'll ever beat that either. And then TBH said he'll probably beat it in a year, so we just gonna say that he hasn't beat it yet. So we're the only ones right now who can officially review it. But let's go ahead and get into it, because Sekiro was a game that, I don't know about you, Ace. Well, actually, I do know about you because you were asking about it after the fact, but
There you go.
Sekiro wasn't a game that I was going to play. As you all know, like, I'm not a fan of Dark Souls / Bloodborne type games at all. I intentionally avoided those. I thought that those games were originally for masochists, because I can see you all like dying multiple times and constantly coming back for more. I did not understand it. The only reason why I was somewhat like interested in Sekiro was simply because of the fact that it was based in feudal Japan, and excuse me, I love these type of games. So I love anything feudal Japan. I love Dynasty Warriors. I love any game like the Tenchu. So anything that's based in feudal Japan, like I'm into it. But as soon as I found out this was a From Software game, I'm like, oh hell no, nope, not even gonna give it a chance. But people wanted me to play it so bad that they donated to me. So I was like, okay, since you donated to me, I'm gonna at least try it. And if I don't like it, I'm not playing it no more. Like, I'm not even gonna try that stuff. So me being scared out of my mind, I was like, you know what? Before I get started, I'm going to look up a combat guide on this.
Oh,
I'm like,
man. So we're going to talk about the allegations. All right.
Yeah,
I didn't know we were going to start off the review like this.
We'll talk about it again.
JG.
We'll talk about it again. We talked about it on the Game Illuminaughty podcast too, which is out, by the way. So shameless plug. But I looked up a combat guide, and then I looked up a walkthrough, because I'm not going to obviously spoil anything for myself. But I was like, all right, they said this game is going to be tougher than Dark Souls and Bloodborne combined. Do you know what that does for my psyche? Why the hell when I get into this if I've never played any of those games, right? So I was like, all right, let me look up a guide to at least show like how I'm supposed to approach this game. How I'm supposed to approach it. So it literally like gave no spoilers or anything. They were just saying, okay, you need to approach this game like this. This game is all about being aggressive and deflecting. So I was like, all right, bet. So I'm at least halfway prepared. But again, I've said this and I'll say it again. It does not matter like what you watch. Like we can watch how to beat every boss, but if you suck, you're gonna die. You're gonna die a million times. And I still died. I died the first mini boss. So that shows you that, you know, I still wasn't well versed. I was okay with the first like couple enemies, but it didn't matter. It did not matter at all. So that's how this game is. But I think I did fairly well. And from my first playthrough, which you all watched on Twitch, like I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna stick with it. And I was very happy to have stuck with it, because I think that this game so far this year has been one of the best games that I played. And I would actually say that this is probably one of the best games I've played like ever. I would actually give it that I would give it that merit. It's one of the best games that I've ever played. So I'll at least say that from my starting statement. So Ace, how do you feel about it, not really knowing anything about it and like getting into it for your first time as well?
Well, I was familiar with like Bloodborne, and then I was familiar with like kind of those type of games and everything along those lines, but it necessarily never really interested me. But I can honestly say that I've seen people like, Bloodborne, especially like, I guess like in the certain sides of like the gaming community, when it comes to like YouTube, Twitter, and everything like that, a lot of people would wear that quote unquote badge of honor when you're able to complete Bloodborne. And then also if you get the platinum in Bloodborne, you're like, top tier, until like they change it so it make it easier or something along those lines. So I've seen things like that, but personally I never really played it. But shout out to Twitch for the opportunity. They hooked your boy up with a code, and I was like, you know what? Let me try it out just to see. I mean, like JG said, I asked in the DMs. I heard the game, but I didn't know really much of it, and I legit was like, hey, like, what's it really about? JG was like, hey, do your research, and then I saw that Twitter had a opportunity. Twitch had an opportunity for it, so I was like, sure, why not? Now, unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to be able to play it at the beginning like everyone else did because I was traveling for work. But I was able, Twitch helped me out and everything like that. So when I got back home, I was able to play it not only not on my console, but on PC, which is I highly recommend that compared to going to the console side, just because you're gonna need the frames when it comes to the reaction in the game and everything like that. Now, JG stated that this was probably one of his top games ever. I can't say that, but I can definitely say honestly, this has been one of the most entertaining games for me to stream. Yes, there were some frustrating moments, but with me especially, like, yes, I was frustrated, and you guys may or may not have noticed because I tend to try to keep my cool no matter how long I'm streaming and everything like that. But I've always felt like, and this is just with anything in life, but I've always felt like if I get too frustrated, it's going to really push me off from my goal and it's going to make things worse. So yeah, you saw the GI funny moment that just on the GI channel, so take a look at that, of everybody dying in Sekiro. But it was one of those things is that you just legit had to get good, and you had to download your opponents, your mini bosses and your main bosses. You had to download their move set. You had to pay attention to certain patterns that they did. Now, yes, some of the hitboxes were ridiculous, and I'm sure JG will bring this up later on down the road. I mean, the Chain Ogre, which is like the second boss second mini boss you go against, is ridiculous. Like, that man hitting people with power slams, bro, like Batista or something like that, or hitting you like it, like is ridiculous. But I mean, overall, this is probably one of the most entertaining games I've streamed. And I was kind of like the same like JG. I started it, so I said I'm going to finish it, and I said that I was going to beat it before Mortal Kombat 11 came out, and I did. And I did like a 15-hour stream. Don't recommend that, but I did a 15-hour stream, and I finally got the last boss. And it was probably one of the most satisfying moments that I was able to share via Twitch. So I enjoyed myself. I think the game was great. I definitely do think that it was a top game, but I can't give it that, oh, it's the best game ever, because the best game ever doesn't necessarily have camera angles, and that was one of the main boss you fought the entire time playing the game is the camera. Now, a lot of people are going to say like, oh, Ace JG, man, just lock on and everything like that. No, there's just some times when you're going against these bosses, because you got to look at them and focus on them. So you're going to need to make sure that you are locked on to them. And then the camera would just do its own thing. Yes, you can use the analog a little bit to change things up, but barely. So it's kind of unfortunate because it's such a great game, but the camera is your worst enemy. And it literally... it's ridiculous. And by the way, I have to throw this out there. Whoever is the person behind creating these different bosses and just all their patterns and everything like that, you are truly a diabolical person. And I hope that you got the satisfaction that you did watching all the rage comps, because I guarantee you, whoever you guys are, your team specifically, I know for a fact that you guys watch rage compilations on your guys' bosses, and you guys did it on purpose.
Well, that was a mouthful.
You're muted.
That was a mouthful. Yeah, you already talked about your negatives, which I was going to get on, but you
I haven't even started.
You just went ahead and mentioned one of them at least. But let's talk about the story real quick. The story basically is you're an orphan and you're in the middle of the Ashina clan. They really came to pillage everybody and gain control over feudal Japan during that time, and you end up getting picked up by a man simply known as the Owl, and you end up becoming the Wolf. So you grow up, you end up becoming the protector of Kuro, who's the divine heir. He ends up having some special blood that allows you to be immortal. So obviously when it comes to immortality, that's power. So
corruption.
Yep, with power comes corruption and all that stuff. So So when you grow up, you end up going against Genichiro, who is Ishin's grandson. Ishin is the original person who is the head of the Ashina clan, but he's old. So Genichiro is taking control, and you end up getting into a fight with him and getting your arm cut off. So obviously, like, everybody thought you were left for dead, but you ended up surviving. You meet a person called the Sculptor, who gives you a prosthetic arm, and you can get like a ton of different prosthetics, including ninja stars and an axe and a flame vent. So it's a million different things that you can get to aid you. But basically, you're trying to exact revenge against Genichiro and the Ashina clan, and basically you're just protecting Kuro the whole time and making sure that nobody else can get a hold of him to eventually get the dragon's blood, which again allows them to become immortal. Ace, how did you feel overall about the story? Did you find yourself really engaged in it, or did you just kind of end up coasting through and really finding your challenge in the enemies as you went through the game?
Oh no, I was definitely engaged into the story at all. And there's a certain point where I turned into Detective Ace because I had to revisit some of the memories that you go through when you actually go and pray and everything along those lines. So I was definitely invested into the story. I mean, I think a total like 46 hours and everything like that in the game, and a lot of that time that I was spending not necessarily against the bosses, but like kind of getting behind the scenes, like the lore, making sure to talk to the people around, any person that I saw, trying not to get people dragon rot and everything along those lines. But yeah, I was definitely invested into the story.
True. So, I would find myself invested in the most part into the story. Now, there were times where I was just kind of going through and again, I did kind of get entranced in the world and the mini bosses and bosses that you do encounter. But I think that overall, like, I feel like this game compared to the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games, I feel like it's more straightforward. That was one thing that I disliked about the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games. And all the fans, again, like, you're probably gonna say in the comments, you're like, but those games have so much lore. Yes, they may have a lot of lore, but you kind of gotta go look for it. I feel like in this game, it did a better job at giving you a straightforward story. Now, given there are multiple endings, and that also increases the replayability, and there are a lot of other secrets that you kind of got to pay attention in order for you to find. And again, that's where the whole Dark Souls Bloodborne lore thing comes, where you gotta go look for it. But I think that even if you don't like find every single thing in your first playthrough, I think you'll get a general premise of what's going on in the story once you end up beating it, no matter which ending that you choose. Obviously, the endings are gonna have a major effect once you get to the end, of course. But I still think that from start to finish, like, if you actually pay attention, you'll get the general premise of what's going on. So that's one thing that I definitely enjoyed. Like, I still understood what was going on after I beat the game. So I definitely enjoyed that. Let's get to the combat. Now, again, another thing that I disliked about the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games was the stamina bar. I feel like the stamina bar is bullshit. I do not like that mechanic at all. I want to be able to hit people freely without being penalized if I'm slashing too much and then I can't do anything. I can't dodge because I've hit too much, or I can't continue to hit because I've dodged too much. It's kind of like a give or take. I understand that that's a mechanic that some people like, but it wasn't a thing that I like. So what I ended up finding out about this game is it has a deflect system. Like, they actually want you to be kind of aggressive. It really is like a dance when you're playing this game. So, you hit a couple times and then watch for your opponent. If they try to hit you back, then you got to deflect. If you perfectly deflect, then you'll bring down their posture. If you don't deflect properly and you just do a regular block, it'll bring your posture down more so than if you just regularly deflect. I like that mechanic. And then, of course, you have the mechanics with pretty much any enemy that you face, where they have they have relentless attacks. So these are attacks that you can't necessarily dodge, and you have to choose, like, you can't block it, normally. So you have to choose, like, do you want to dodge? Do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to do something else in order to actually defeat your opponent? So I like that a lot more. And I get why they say that with those mechanics alone, those differences between Dark Souls and Bloodborne, that this game will be technically harder. But even for me personally, even though I didn't play those games, I feel like it was actually easier. I actually feel like it was a lot easier than the stamina system, because I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that, like, you couldn't really block properly and you had to dodge a lot in the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games, but in this one you don't really have to dodge. Actually, dodging in a lot of cases messes you up more than just like staying in the pocket and trying to block and deflect. So how did you feel about the overall combat? And of course, like whenever being able to use your prosthetics as well, I feel like that also brings a different element in the game that there wasn't necessarily in the Dark Souls Bloodborne games.
Right. Well, the combat I actually really did enjoy. I thought it was really dope. I mean, to kind of piggyback what you said at first about it's kind of like a dance. Like you have to kind of play off of your opponent who you're going against, and which is very true. And also, you mentioned earlier about the story about trying to pay attention to it. And then, if you actually paid attention to the story and paid attention to the characters that you interact with, then you actually would know some of the prosthetics, or if you go in to read behind more about your prosthetics that you find, a lot of those prosthetics actually defeated those mini bosses much quicker than if you just used your sword and that was it. So if you paid attention to that, you actually would learn a lot more. But I did enjoy the combat. I definitely do think it was really dope, and I enjoyed it. I definitely do think that the combination with the prosthetic arm and then the different attachments going around the areas, I definitely do think that those definitely hurt you. And I would agree, there are some bosses, yes, that if you did block and then you like dodge, then you were good and you were able to attack afterwards. But there's some that have like these unblockable moves, but you have to have these skills and counter. Then yeah, I completely understand. And blocking and doing counters is the key in this game. Trust me. Don't be hard-headed. Trust me. You need to do the counters, because if you don't, then you're gonna have a bad time. Now, you might get away with it at the beginning of the game, but then when you get further into the story, you're really going to need to. But overall, the combat's really dope. Like I said before, I didn't play any of the Souls game, Bloodborne, or anything like that. But just from hearing what JG said and just seeing what everybody else was talking about these games, because like I said, I heard of them, but they weren't really interesting to me. The stamina bar doesn't necessarily seem appealing. I definitely do prefer the posture damage, and I think that of course you can't spam. In a sense, you can spam the block, but then you can't. There's certain items that you can receive and take that would pretty much lighten the load on your prosthetic, on the posture damage that you receive. But if you time it correctly, man, it does wonders going against bosses and everything along those lines. So I definitely do think that From Software did a very good job when it came to the combat system. It was interesting, and it kept it up so where it was fresh for all the bosses. Just because you beat one boss one way and you were just aggressive doesn't mean you're going to beat the next boss or mini boss like that. You have to be strategic about it, and you're running around, you're dodging, you're attacking, all of that. Like that all plays a role, and I can appreciate that.
Yep. So that's what it is on that. So the combat is definitely very unique. I've never seen a game like approach their combat like that. So I think they're From Software really gained a unique stance to make their games fresh, because I mean, pretty much since it started with Demon's Souls, it's always been pretty much the same formula. But with this one, they completely switched it up. They made it new, they made it innovative, and they made it, in my opinion, more appealing. Like you said. Let's talk about the actual like open world aspect. How did you feel about everything as far as like not having a linear path to go through your journey to get to the end? I found it to be amazing. There are of course going to be some things that you miss, cause like you can go one way and just like end up keep going. You'll get like engulfed in that area, and then like you'll forget to like come back, or there may not be like a path to the left that you just may have missed. So I find it kind of easy to miss a lot of stuff, but that's again where like the multiple playthroughs come in, and that's again another plus that I have is the replayability. But going back to the open world aspect, I definitely enjoyed it. That there's not one set path that you have, but ultimately all the paths will lead to the ending part. So how'd you feel about the open world aspect in the game?
I mean, to be honest with you, you give me an open world type game like I enjoy, and I'm going exploring everywhere. Like this is one of the games that I didn't even have to necessarily worry about, and not even have to necessarily be like, oh man, I need to get this and that. Like I knew for a fact that I was gonna have to explore. This is not something that's linear, even though I do feel like there is necessarily a linear path or like a certain walkthrough that you could take to get to what bosses and everything along those lines, because I actually had to do a lot of backtracking when I got to the tower, because I was like, and when I mean backtracking, the places are, because I already went there, so I'm thinking, oh, I'm good, I don't need to go back and everything like that. Psych. When you have to pick up items and everything like that to get for like the aroma, to get to like the fountainhead area and everything like that, turns out I had those items already, but there were new bosses. Like for instance, the bosses that were the monkeys, there were 4 monkeys, 1 invisible to 3 visible ones. If I would have not discovered and talked to Kuro about a certain part in the game, I would have never went back to that temple, because I already had went to the temple. I had beat 2 of the bosses there already. So I didn't know that I had to necessarily grab that item to send me to this illusion-esque world that would give me to fight the monkey boss, which is part of the different type of ending. So that all played a role. So I actually really did enjoy the fact that you had to go everywhere. Like I explored, but that's actually a majority of where my gameplay came, because I was able to find so many more prosthetics. I was able to find and the gourd seeds, and I was actually able to max out, I believe, at 10 recovery for your gourd seeds. I was able to max out at that, because I was exploring, and I felt like I went so far that when I had to do so many backtrack, I was like, oh, I've been here, and here already. But then I'm like, dang, I need to increase my attack power more and everything like that. So I can appreciate it.
True. So optimization. Now, you played on the PC version as well, correct?
Well, I had the opportunity to play it on both because of a mess up. But
what did you play mostly on?
No, PC.
Okay, you played on PC mostly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So from my experience, I found out the game to be silky smooth for the most part. Now there have been like a couple of areas that I would say that my frames kind of dropped, but I think overall the game was definitely optimized. I rarely had any frame rate issues. So did you have the same thing, or did you have any areas where you had performance issues?
Perfect example. So before I did a trade with one of the homies here in back home, when I was on PC, I had an i7 7700K CPU, NVIDIA MSI NVIDIA 1080 Ti X Trio graphics card. I noticed that I could not stream the game at first in full screen mode. I had to do it in window mode, because if I did it in full screen, I had dropped frames. But once I actually switched over and had upgraded my new parts and upgraded to an i9 9900K CPU with a 2080 MSI 2080 gaming trio MSI graphics card, I was able to play the game full screen, stream it, no issues. Now, I did notice that there was a difference between the CPU usage and everything along those lines, but when it comes to optimization, for the most part, the game was optimized very well. But I would like to mention the fact, since I have an opportunity to play it a little bit on the console, on the PS4 Pro. Oh my God, there's a huge difference in frame rate when you go from the console to PC. And I recommend anybody that's thinking of possibly picking this game up, if you have a decent rig, pick it up on PC, because the frames will help you. There will be times when you'll go against like a chain ogre or something like that, and I went back on the PlayStation 4 just to see the difference of the bosses, and the frames help you, trust me.
Well, there you go. So I didn't get a chance to play it on the console, because if I don't have a chance, I'm not going to. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm just not even gonna give it the opportunity. But yeah, okay. I mean, TBH has said that as well. He said he played on the Xbox One X, and he was saying that he was playing at 30 frames or sub 30 frames, and he said that he was having issues with the frames. And he said he was actually considering starting over and getting it on the PC once he seen how we were playing, how we weren't having any issues. So so he said that the frames were also a huge factor as to like why he was dying to some of these bosses. But let's get on this, because that's the bread and butter of From Software games, or the bosses. I'm not going to talk about all the bosses, because it's a lot of them. It's a shit ton of them. But I'm going to ask you, Ace, what was your most difficult boss? I'll give you 2, because I'm pretty sure I know what your one answer is, because you've owned this boss for 10 hours, bro. That's a long ass time.
Yo, I have the eye of the tiger. I will not quit. Won't stop.
But
Ever.
who are your most
Lord
difficult?
Lord Ishin is one of the, in my opinion, Lord Ishin, until I was able to figure out his moveset from phase 1, 2, and 3, was definitely the most difficult boss in my opinion. Now, a lot of people will say the Demon King was their most difficult boss, and that's the boss prior to you get to in the Lord Ishin, which is the final boss. So I would say Lord Ishin, and then I'm looking at my list right now. I'm gonna be honest with you, Lady Butterfly got me. It was pretty difficult at first. I know a lot of people might bring up Owl, but actually Owl wasn't that hard once you figured him out, because he did the same moveset every time, like every 3 or 4 different like every minute he did one, and if you just triggered it, it got into his face and everything like that. After he dropped that like that aura that makes you not able to
heal,
recover, to heal. Oh, he was pretty simple. So yeah, I would actually put Lady Butterfly, and then I would actually put Lord Ishin at the end, because now, and JG mentioned this earlier, I have to mention this. Different endings, meaning you went against the boss differently, and they play differently depending on the timeline or what ending you had. So I'm throwing that out there. I had a different ending than JG. Now, Lord Ishin, when I faced him, came back from the dead, and after he died. So I'm throwing that out there. JG
spoiler alert.
Him.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, without, it's a review. JG faced him prior to him dying when he was in a tower. So his moveset was completely different, because against JG, he had fire.
This man turned into a flame balls, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Against me, he had lightning abilities. So that plays a huge role. And it also, depending on where you are in the story, huge role. So Lady Butterfly, Lord Ishin for me.
Okay.
You?
Lady Butterfly, I think that overall, like, that was the first major boss that a lot of people went to, and this was again another example of, you can face Lady Butterfly late in the game, or you can face Lady Butterfly early in the game. A lot of people face Lady Butterfly early in the game. I was one of them, and she definitely gave me problems. I died like almost 20 times to her in a session before I was like, you know what, like, somebody helped me out in the chat that was like, you know what, try using this prosthetic against her when she does this. I was like, okay, let me try that, and sure enough, like, it worked out so much better, and I ended up defeating her. But yeah, Lady Butterfly gave a lot of people problems. And I'm gonna actually not say Ishin, even though Ishin did give me some problems. I'm gonna name a mini boss that gave me some issues. 7 Spears. This nigga here, bruh, 7 Spears. Even I'm playing on my second playthrough, right? He was still giving me some issues, and the only reason why is because when I tried to Mikiri counter him, it's so buggy at times. I like end up too close to him. He ends up just spearing the mess out of me. Like, you gotta kind of give him range in order to get that Mikiri counter right, and I just wasn't getting it at first, and I died a lot. I died a lot to 7 Spears. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna come back later in my first playthrough. So I'm gonna come back later, and then I'm gonna try to handle you. I eventually beat him, of course, but he gave me a lot of issues, man. Besides that, I would say another mini boss was the one sword dude, with the dude with one hand, the first ninja that you faced, bro, because he was giving me issues
in the woods.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
It wasn't even the one in the woods. I mean, he gave me some issues too, but it was the one that was down in the abandoned dungeon where you came out of.
Yeah.
Because there's no space. You can't do anything.
Yeah, that's bullshit. You're like in a narrow tunnel, bro.
Yeah.
Like, if the camera was your biggest boss on that one.
Exactly. So that's why he's giving me some issues too. So those are our hardest bosses. Let us know in the comment section if you play the game, what bosses that you struggled with. Again, I haven't faced every single boss, like the Demon of Hatred. Everybody's saying that's the hardest boss on the game, besides Ishin, of course, the Sword Saint. And I haven't faced a Demon of Hatred yet, so I'm gonna try to, on my second playthrough, take on the Demon of Hatred and see how hard that boss is. But again, let us know in the comments, who did you struggle with. Let's get on the negatives, because I feel like we've already talked about a lot of positives. So say what you already mentioned, Ace, and that's probably one of my only negatives that I have about the game, and that's rare for me to only have one negative. The camera in this game is atrocious. Again, like, for the most part, it's okay, but I feel like with certain bosses, again, they're jumping around, they're doing a lot of moves. You're trying to make sure that you can get out the way, yet keep the enemy in front of you, and it gets difficult at times. Sometimes the enemies will back you into a corner, they'll back you, somewhere else, and you just can't get out, and then the camera gets wonky, you'll lose control when you're trying to lock on, and then you end up getting punished for it. So the camera, a lot of times, is like Ace said, it's your worst enemy in the game, and it got me too. Not as much as other people, but I would definitely say that the camera was definitely a really, really bad thing. Other than that, it was just some like little gameplay mechanics here and there, like what I said. When I try to face 7 spears, the Makiri counter sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes I end up dodging instead of doing the counter, which I know when I know I had it. But other than that, like, those little things are just minor things. But of course, like the camera, that's gonna be one of the main things that you need to be working when you're facing these bosses. Otherwise, you will get murked, you will get clapped. Mess around with these bosses. Ace, do you have any other negatives that you wanted to mention?
No, I mean, oh, well, actually, no, yes, I do. I feel like certain bosses' hitboxes are just ridiculous, and I will actually say, any boss that had a spear is bullshit. And when I say bullshit, I truly mean bullshit. The range of the spears are ridiculous. Now, JG mentioned the 7 spear mini boss that gave him issue. But I would like to mention, if JG would have used the oil and the flame vent prosthetic, it would have made him super easy. So just throwing that out there. But any boss that had a spear, his range was out of this world. Now the counter, like JG said, sometimes worked, but even when you had a spear and the counter was buggy, oh my god, you're gonna have a bad time. But besides that, and the camera and the initial having to stream the game at full screen, that's it. Oh, also, I don't necessarily think that this is a technical issue, but maybe just something overall for the game. I didn't have any issue, and I know you didn't, JG, but I did see some people in the community have issues. If you close the game out without necessarily going directly to the quit game option, your save file could potentially get corrupted. Now,
good point. That was an issue throughout the community. Yes.
And I think that that's something that falls on the developers. Now, I'm not claiming to be a developer or anything along, and I get it that we should be happy that it saves, because a lot of people got to remember it when you just go and you just exit the game without going through the quit game option and everything like that. Regardless, every time it tells you there's a warning and gives you next time go to quit game option, because wherever you stop the game is where you're going to start back over. If you're in an area where you just defeated a boss, you have not went to go to one of the items to where you pray and everything the like idols, that, it's the idols is going to bring you there. So I think that's more on the technical side for them. It wasn't necessarily an issue for me and JG personally, but I definitely do think that was something that should be brought up. And I would hope if they do I would hope that if they do another game, or they do like another Sekiro or something like that, that they fix that, because that could be an issue with people's corrupting save files. Like, imagine you're going through and you're at the final boss, and then you find out your save file is corrupted and you have to restart over. That's how people stop playing games completely.
Yeah, I agree. So I didn't actually know that people were doing that. Like, I always thought, even though it's not really clear in the options to do this, I didn't know that people were like just quitting their game, just exiting out on PC at least, just exiting out and not actually quitting the game properly. Because when I found the option, I was like, okay, how do I quit? I press option, and then I found, oh, quit game is here. So I've always done it like that. I didn't know that people were not doing that and finding it. But I feel like maybe From Software should have did a better job, at least on the PC version, to just have the quit game option right there. Or maybe have it at the idle, because that's where a lot of people go to before they're done with their session. Maybe have it there to have people quit, or just show them clearly that's where quit game is, instead of just having them kind of gotta go through the options in order to quit. So that's a good thing. Any other negatives you have, or is that it?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. One last other thing I want to touch on, just overall, like how the game looks. How did you rate the aesthetics overall?
Uh, man, look, I played on a PS4 Pro and I also played it on PC. But I'm gonna be honest with you, that game looked like it could have been on the PS3 easily.
What?
Yeah, I didn't think it was I didn't necessarily think it was graphically aesthetic. I mean, I think it did play smooth. I mean, I had the opportunity to play it up to 144 hertz and then play it to 60 frames. But I didn't necessarily think the graphics was out of this world. But I think it looked good. It looked presentable. I do think that a lot of the areas that you went to and like some of even the attacks, if you notice, like it was very colorful, very vibrant. But I mean, honestly, it wasn't like graphically like, oh my god, like it wasn't a game that I felt that would be like graphically intensive, like maybe like a Division 2 or like an Anthem or something like that. I feel like those were more graphically intensive games compared to like Sekiro. I feel like Sekiro would be like towards like the end of the life of the PlayStation 3, maybe like one of the first games that comes out for PlayStation 4 where it doesn't utilize all of this graphic abilities. That's just personally how I felt. I wasn't like wow, but I will say that it was very vibrant. It was very colorful. When you pop like a different like item or something like that, like a balloon or something like that, the aesthetics did look clean and it looked presentable, but graphically it didn't look like that intense to me. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Now I wouldn't say PS3. I feel like that's being a little harsh on it, but
maybe I am being a little harsh.
But the game wasn't. I mean, it wasn't the best looking game. It's not anything that's again going to push your rig to the limits. But I thought that the game looked great, especially like when you go to certain areas, like even the first area where you fought Genichiro for the first time. You can't tell me that area doesn't look beautiful, bro. Even though it's at nighttime, that area looks beautiful.
Fuck that area.
When you get to the Fountain Palace looks amazing.
Okay, that's what I said. It looks very vibrant. It looks very colorful.
Yeah, so I think they did a good job.
The bull's flames and everything like that, depending on what side that you, because there's two bulls. One that has he's like the flaming rage.
The first one that you'll see.
The first one, and then you'll see a second one if you go into the fountain place. If you actually go around the corner of the temple, and he has like purple and everything like that. Like I said, the colors were vibrant. And yeah, maybe I was a little harsh on the graphics of the PS3. Let me retract that statement. I just feel like it could, if they wanted it to be more graphical, they could have, but I also do believe, especially on the PC, I feel like they didn't go in as much when it comes to graphical settings and everything like that, because they wanted to give you guys the most as much frames per second as possible, refresh rate, all of that. So that plays a role.
So
and if that's the case,
performance is what you're saying.
If they want to focus on performance, then I think you guys did your job. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I give you that. Okay. Any other things that you wanted to mention? Anything on your notes?
I mean, you've already said bosses, mini boss. Oh, also, yeah, absolutely. You guys just, when it comes to the items and everything like that, this is you have to use it as a survival tactic. Divine confetti, unless somebody is selling it, hard to get. Drops, trust me, it drops rare. I would say don't ring the bell, so you have the demon bell in your inventory. Yeah, that's what I have to bring up. So majority of my playthrough, I rang the bell because I'm hard-headed, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna ignore the signs, everything like that. Rang the bell. I was like, okay, whatever. Kept on moving.
I rang the bell too, by the way.
Yeah, the demon bell actually is the hard mode of the game. Now it's a high risk, high reward type of thing, where the vitality damage and posture damage and everything like that increases in your enemies, and it makes it harder to bring them down. You also get better loot and drops from it. But when you take it out of your inventory, you think, damn, I actually got really good at the game, because your hits register more and everything. And thanks to JG's challenge, I'm doing keyboard and mouse. I streamed the game on Twitch with a PC with keyboard and mouse, and oh my god, you have to be a crazy tryhard, because I went against the headless primate, and I beat him with the first phase with the keyboard and mouse, and it's very, very, very difficult. And I actually believe that the homie Jojo, because Ethos put it on his Instagram, that he's playing the game with keyboard and mouse. Y'all are crazy, bruh.
Nah, yeah, he's insane.
Crazy.
He's insane.
But items are really dope, and I really do appreciate the fact that when you beat a boss, the boss is very important that you get, because you can increase your attack memory, use the memory to increase your attack power. And then the mini bosses are very important because you get prayer beads, which will be able to create necklaces that would be able to increase your vitality and everything along those lines. But those were essential, and the gourd seeds. So I appreciate the items and everything like that, and going through and collecting them. This man JG thinking spirit emblems where if you just rest at an idol that you get them back. No, you have to get them in your storage and purchase them.
How I got mine back. I got mine back. So excuse me.
You just farmed a lot, and you got a lot because
I did it on accident.
Yeah, there's skill sets, and that's also something we didn't mention. The skill tree is really, really dope, and there's different disciplines and everything like that you can learn throughout the game. But there are certain incentives within those skills that will give you these spirit emblems where you can increase it. Now JG just had a whole bunch apparently, because I had to buy some.
Guess how many I had?
Real.
Because on my second playthrough, guess how many spirit emblems I had stock?
How much?
300.
Oh man, yeah, you good. Yeah,
that means that first of all, I wasn't using my prosthetics as much, and second of all, I was dying a lot because I had to keep going through certain areas and keep beating the regular enemies around the area. So my bad, I didn't know, because I've never had to buy a spirit emblem in my life. I never had
to. That's wild.
But every time I rested at an idol, I got my spirit emblems back from the ones that I had in storage.
Yeah, and that's what you said in the chat. Like, just rest, Ace. You're not listening. I'm like, rest.
I thought you had some.
Buy them.
You saying you wasn't farming, boy? You need to go farm.
No, man. But that was one thing I would say that was very, very interesting with the spirit emblems. But also, that just shows you how in-depth the game is and how you can play it differently. Your playthrough was completely different than my playthrough, and the fact that I use my prosthetics a lot where you didn't. So and it showed because you had so much in storage.
Mm-hmm.
So. I just put that out there, but great game.
True. All right, so we've been talking enough. Let's get to the final GI score for Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Ace, we're going to start off with you. What would you rate the game out of 10, sir?
I give it a 9. I would have given it more than that, but I just can't because of the camera. Once again, I can't. I think this is definitely a game of the year type of caliber game, even though it did have its technical difficulties. But overall, from the experience of the game to the optimization, to the gameplay, to the combat, to the story, I think From Software did a great thing. I think they brought a community of people together to play their game, to enjoy it. There's a lot of people that go in and try to do these challenges where they do no resurrections, no healing, and try to speed run it all the way through. So overall, I think they did a damn good job on this game, and applaud them. So I would give them a 9.
Okay. All right. I think this will probably be one of the highest scores I've ever done on the GI review. I'm giving this game a 9.5. I'm giving the game a 9.5. And again, the only negative that I have is the camera, but I will excuse that because I was still able to get through the game with little to no problem. Of course, I died a lot to some of these bosses, but I think that one of the main things about this game that makes me give it such a high score is the replayability. It's been rare for me that I want to legit replay a game, and this game did that fully for me. Like, even though like I've seen through your playthrough and Ethos' playthrough, some of the things that I missed from getting the different ending, it still makes me want to go and try it out myself. And again, like for us playing so many different games, us having to review so many different games, us basically having gamer ADHD and along with a lot of other people, this is one game that I will legit go and play again. And again, I've already mentioned that I'm on my second playthrough, so that just shows you how good that I think that this game is. And this is just coming from a person who would have never thought in a million years that I would like this type of game. So I think for me having that feeling, this is why I'm giving this such a high score. Like, I legit love this game from start to finish. Once I ended up beating it, I felt super satisfied as a gamer when I completed this. And again, that's just a feeling that I haven't felt in a very, very long time. So I say that From Software did their job, and if they can keep doing games like this, if they don't continue doing that stamina system bullshit and come up with another innovative way to like tell another story, I think that I'll become like a full-fledged From Software fan. And
Oh,
again,
man.
I'm giving y'all the highest praise right now that I can give
That's
y'all.
the most positive I've ever seen JG from Software. You need to, man, y'all definitely did a great thing to make JG be this popular.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer now from Software, dog. Like I thought that y'all were some
Man.
crazy ass people, some masochists. You just want everybody
No,
to
you guys
suffer.
still are. No, you guys still are. No,
So
no,
you guys
no.
still
You
are.
guys definitely are. But you guys did a great job.
Yeah,
Seriously.
you guys did.
You guys
amazing
definitely did
job.
a great job.
Amazing job. So there you go. 9 for Ace, 9.5 for me. So final GI score is a 9.25. There you
Very
go,
upset
people.
you showed your phone.
9.25. Well, T-Baby doing it too, you know. So this is what we do. So 9.25 is the final GI score for me and Ace for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Please let us know in the comment section, because I know it's a lot of y'all that have been playing it. A lot of y'all were in the comments cheering on, but mostly hating on us. Y'all were hating.
Oh yeah, you guys are definitely haters. Sincon, I'm talking specifically to you. When I went through my playthrough of Owl, you wanted him to defeat me, and when you were telling him and egging him on to kill me, I killed him, and you are a hater. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, Sincon a big hater, and apparently he was the one who died to the chicken, so I ain't trying to hear it.
Oh man, yo, who died to the chicken? Let us know in the comment section. Be real, be honest.
Died to that chicken, bruh. He died to that chicken, and the Patreon caught it, bruh. They definitely clipped that. They clipped that immediately, bruh. So ain't no lying about that. Sin be lying all the time, so he definitely be lying. So again, but it was a good time overall. You know, even though we did get frustrated at times. Ace played for 10 damn hours just to beat one boss, which is absolutely ridiculous. I would never do that in my entire life, but this man
won't quit.
He has a level of determination that nobody else has, apparently.
Patient. Yeah, I'm patient. That's the one thing.
Patience is the understatement for what you did, sir. Patience is the understatement.
Bro, you have to be patient. You have to remain calm in these type of situations, or else you'll go crazy.
Nah, bro, your mental and physical health should have been shot after that, boy. I don't even know how you woke up in the morning.
But it wasn't, because I'm a very positive person. So
I guess, man. So there you go, man. Let us know what you thought about the video. Let us know what you felt about Sekiro. If you want to participate in videos like this, obviously you can't participate in this particular video because this is a GI review of the game. But other videos that you would like to participate in, like Avengers Endgame, you know, this coming up. I know some of y'all are gonna watch. So if y'all are ready for it, if y'all want to stay up to like midnight or 1 in the morning to get that review done, we'll let y'all know. We'll definitely let y'all know. But you can participate in videos like that if you subscribe to our Patreon. Again, that helps us out immensely. You can get rewards like what I mentioned, being in a video, being a part of our Patreon Discord, which again we play with Patreon members every single night. We got Mortal Kombat coming up, so I already see people excited in our Discord about that. So some people are gonna get salty. So we go see with that. We'll see Ace with the plug about Mortal Kombat. You see it, people. So get ready. Again, support us, and we will see you all for the next video. Peace out. Have a good night.